Before we can add drawstrings to our hoodie, we'll first have to create a channel for it to go through. To begin, let's select our trace tool in the 2D window and select each line segment that we intend to turn into our facing pattern. Then, hit Command or Control and right-click to access the Options menu and select the Trace as Pattern. Place the new pattern piece on your workspace and create a symmetric pattern with sewing for the other side. To remove the holes for the drawstrings in the facing pieces, just select them with the Move tool and hit Delete. Now, you can stitch the facing to the hood using the segment sewing or free sewing tool. Start with the front edge. Once you have the first segment stitched, you can move to the 3D window and superimpose under to confirm the placement. From there, you can continue to stitch the facing to the hood. Then, the center front of the facing pieces to each other to best create the channel. At this point, you can simulate to see how it all comes together. The particle distance can definitely be smaller for those facing pieces, so let's go ahead and change that. Bring it down to 10. We can also flip those pieces to normal in the 3D window here as well. As you can see, this will give it all a much more realistic feel. And now for the drawstring. You can use your rectangle tool to create a 1/4 inch wide by 33 inch long drawstring. Actually, let's go ahead and make it 0.35, so 3/8 of an inch this time for something more substantial. Now, once you have that, we'll need to create an internal line in our facing so that we have something to attach our drawstring to. With your Edit Pattern tool, select the front edge of your facing pattern and offset an internal line 1/2 to 5/8 of an inch, so 0.5 to 0.625. Since the patterns are linked, it should automatically create this on the other side. Use your free sewing tool to create a stitch line from the internal line to the edge of your drawstring. This should anchor your drawstring to your hood, and you will be able to remove these stitch lines later on. Then, in your 3D window, select the drawstring with your Move tool and superimpose under. Just to be sure that our drawstring is well positioned, I will move the hood piece to check. Okay, there it is. Right where it's supposed to be between our hood and our facing. Now let's try again on the other side. We're going to first copy paste our drawstring pattern piece. We'll do the same thing we did on the other side and use the free sewing tool to stitch the edge of the drawstring to the internal line. Superimpose under in our 3D window. Before we simulate, let's get a better look at what's happening under the hood. Okay, it all looks good. So go ahead and simulate. There are a few minor issues to consider down the line, but overall, everything looks good. Now, let's see if we can thread our drawstring through the holes. Grab your pin box tool, which is underneath your select mesh tool in the 3D window. In your 2D window, select the bottom edge of your drawstring pattern pieces. This will make them completely stiff in the 3D window. And with your gizmo, you should be able to reposition your drawstring so that it is threading through your opening. Take your time. You might have to do this several times before you get it exactly right. I also recommend hiding and unhiding your hood piece to get a better view of your positioning. When you think you've got it, hit Control or Command plus right-click and delete all pins. Now you can simulate. If there is a lot of collision, stop the simulation and try this process again. Eventually, it'll come together. Sometimes when there is collision, you can fix the issue by setting your sublayer using the Set Sublayer tool. With the tool selected, click on the hood pattern piece in your 2D window, then on the drawstring. Most issues with collision will automatically resolve. In your library menu, head over to the Hardware and Trim folder. Select Chords and Chord Ends, drag it onto your workspace. A pop-up window will appear, allowing you to add file. Since we already have a drawstring, you can use the Move tool to remove the ends from the strings they came with, and delete those strings. Your drawstring ends are OBJ files and will require the same process to attach to the garments as rivets and rhinestones alike. Before we get into specifics, let me first check to make sure these ends will fit my drawstring. It looks like our drawstrings are a bit too wide, so in 2D, I'm going to use the Edit Pattern tool to thin it out a little bit more. And there you have it. Now, let's get those ends attached. You'll first have to select it with your Move tool. Select the little blue icon that appears beside the gizmo. Then click on the drawstring end you want to attach it to. As you can see, it's not going to position itself perfectly the first time, and you'll have to make some adjustments until everything looks right. Use the gizmo and rotate your image until you have the right placement. Now let's try the other side. Perfect. To get a more accurate view of the thickness of this drawstring, let's activate our textured surface. The width is fine, but it looks like it could use a little more thickness. So I'm going to select the pattern piece, and now let's head over to our property editor to get a better fit for these drawstrings by bringing the additional thickness rendering up to 1. That looks good, but I think it might look a little bit better at 1.5. So let's go ahead and bring the other one up as well. Okay, now we can simulate. Let's bring back our front piece by selecting it in the 2D window. Select Unhide 3D Pattern. One issue you'll encounter with using this drawstring technique is that it becomes challenging to add the standard eyelet to the opening on the hood. So, a good alternative might be using a bar tack top stitch around the opening for a realistic finish. In your object browser, select your top stitch tab and add a new stitch. Rename it bar tack. Select the top stitch tool and apply the bar tack around the drawstring opening on the hood. In order to really see the stitch work in the 3D window, you want to go into your property editor and make a few adjustments.